David Livingstone was a missionary. I think he was from London. If he wasn't, he was from somewhere else. And he felt called to go to Africa. He felt he needed to take the gospel to places that it had never been. He took a few men with him, and they went into this part of Africa where no white man had ever gone, and it was where tribes of headhunters lived. One night, he said, we were gathered around the campfire, and he said we began to sense movement in the brush of the trees around us. And he said somebody slipped in and knelt next to David Livingstone and said, you need to know that the headhunters have come. And the woods around us are surrounded with these headhunters, and they plan to kill you tonight and kill all of us. They'll wait till right before dawn when it's the darkest, and they'll catch us off guard while we're weary and sleepy. They're going to kill us. David Livingstone did something very powerful. He prayed. I can't tell you how many times I prayed when I didn't know what else to do. And he prayed and said, God, help us. God, watch over us. God, I felt like I ought to come here, and I know other missionaries have died, and I don't know what the future holds, but I'm in your will. If you would, spare us. And dawn came, and the sun rose, and they were still alive, and he couldn't understand it. A year later, he found that that chief of those headhunters had gotten converted. So he went and he talked with him. He said, I understand you've given your life to Christ and you've led your people to Christ. He said, I have. Well, he said, I was told that when my men and I were camping that you had brought your headhunters around us and you were going to kill us that night. He said, we were. Well, he said, why didn't you kill us? He said, just about the time we were ready to come out of the woods and do it, there were 47 warriors we counted. They had a sword in one hand and a light in the other. And he said, we didn't think we could overpower them. Those 47 warriors stood head and shoulders above all of us. So we backed away. From that first time when he was around that bonfire, 3 years passed, and he was out doing deputation work. He was in Scotland at a church. And he told the story about how they had prayed and there were headhunters around them and how they'd gotten converted, and they found out later that they were going to kill him. And he said, I asked the chief, why didn't you? He said, because there were 47 warriors. We didn't think we could conquer them. They closed the service. One of the men there in that church in Scotland came up to him and he said, my name is such and such. And he said, I happen to be the Missionary Men's Prayer President. It's my responsibility to create interest in missions. And we meet monthly, sometimes weekly, and we pray. And we have prayed for you. And he said, I've got a journal. I write down every prayer and every time we pray and what we were praying about and who was in the prayer meeting. He said, I'd like to know the date of when that took place, that you were around that bonfire. And the headhunters were going to kill you, and they saw the 47 warriors. He said it was January 14th, 1856. He turned in his prayer journal, and he came to January 14, 1856, and said, here it is. Here's what happened that night. I came in and we were going to study the Bible a little bit and then have a short prayer. And I came in and my heart got so burdened that I turned to the men and said, let's not get the Bibles out and read them. I feel like we need to pray for the safety of David Livingstone. And he said to Mr. Livingstone, here's the names. All these men signed their names that prayed that night. He said, look at their names, count them. There's 47 men that prayed for the safety of David Livingstone, thousands of miles away. And God raised up 47 warriors. Don't tell me that God doesn't hear prayer.